exhausting. It's like the idea of perfection. I've really come to realize that perfection is an absolute lie.
Right.
It's an illusion. It's completely relative. It's too hard to obtain, too hard to maintain, and then in the end, who's the judge anyway? To
Right.
me, only the good Lord is my judge, and he already sees me as just absolutely perfect. So why even dive into all that? It's just like keeping up with the Joneses, or and you see like the Kim and the Kourtney Kardashians, they're supposedly rich and famous and living the dream, but they're not
They're not
happy.
happy.
They're
Mm-mm.
not happy.
Everyone has something in their lives that we don't see,
Everyone.
or until something explodes, then everybody sees. So going back to when you actually were filling your vessel again, I love that you used that term because it is so true. I had this mental image of this vessel so full, like it sunk to the bottom of the ocean, and it's heavy,
Yeah.
and it's got full of stuff that's not really going to do any good, because it's not definitely going to go back to the surface
Right.
when it's filled with gunk. And you talked about refilling your vessel, so you refilled your vessel. I love Joyce Myers. I've gone to some of her performances when she's come to here to the Phoenix area, and so I know what kind of energy you're talking about, and I know how straight she is about what you
Oh,
really need to hear.
no.
And it makes sense, right?
Yeah,
If you're
she's
willing
tough
to make
love
that,
kind of mom.
yeah, as long as you're willing to
And
make
that's
that
how
change.
I take it, because I don't do very well under authority. I've always been very strong-willed and independent, right? So, but when Joyce starts to speak, it was kind of like, oh, yes, ma'am. Well,
Right. I
yes,
love that.
ma'am. Well,
Straightforward.
yeah, none of the. I don't like. Don't come at me with all your frillies and stuff. Just get me to the good stuff, And she's like that,
Yeah.
and I really appreciate her. Well, everything about her, she talks about how she never thought, she hated her voice, she hated this, she hated everything, completely abused, and to see how God's used her, it's
Yeah.
it's
Her
more than
ministry is
inspiring.
amazing.
It really is.
So but now you talked about Boulder City, but you're not there now. So you're back in your hometown.
That's right.
How'd
I
you get
ended
back
up back
there?
home in Indiana, just like the song. Um, my husband had a business, Mr. Fix It, out in Boulder City. And that was right when I was coming back to Indiana for the first time. Well, he had a bad accident and he fell off a ladder and broke his legs. He couldn't walk. Well, there was no insurance and there was no savings. And
Oh,
while I had been a stay-at-home mom for 10 years, suddenly my husband's on the chair. He can't move. And it was like, oh,
uh-oh.
shoot. Yeah, I have to figure something out. So
Fight or flight.
my friend, yes, that's right. My friend Ted Warner, who I spoke about, my business partner, and also the author of my book, he was just starting a new program with the John Cooper Works Mini Coopers cars, doing autocross events. And I asked him if I could. I said, I want to do it. I need to do something, and I'd be happy to come on the road with you. So that's when I joined the Miles Ahead team and started traveling around. And then, so what I was doing was my family was in Boulder City, but I was working in Indiana, and I was going back and forth.
Oh, wow.
And I have another small son at that time, and I'd be gone for weeks at a time. So I finally I called my husband and I said, babe, we're moving to Indiana. Put the house up for rent. I'll be home in start packing. I'll be home in 2 weeks. And so within just a month, I had gone home, rented out my house, and moved my whole family back to Indiana. And now we actually all work together as a team. My husband does the timing and the scoring. My son Chance you have to have a cone boy, right? If somebody hits a cone, they have to call it in on the radio. And then my son Cruz, who's 9, he has his own title, Director of Youth Entertainment Services.
Okay. Sounds pretty elaborate.
He gets all the kids together at the events and lets them play with his Legos.
Nice.
So it's turned into a real blessing that we can all work together and we get to travel around together and do fun autocross type things.
The family that plays together stays together is where that statement comes into place.
Amen.
Awesome.
They really are my best friends.
So now you have a couple of things with your community that you're involved in. You want to share a little bit about those? Like the event that's coming up, I want to say, did you say November? And then we have something, I think the Indies in May, isn't it? Is that what we talked about?
Yeah, May 21st, we have a race to the finish for the Youth Haven Foundation. It's going to be really nice. You can check out the details on the Miles Ahead page on Facebook. And then I'm lucky enough to be on the board of directors for a nonprofit organization called Youth Opportunity Foundation. And now what they do is they take the troubled kids to turn them into successful adults, mostly ones that have been through the system. The jail system, that is. It's really, really hard to get out of that once you're in that. And they don't have any follow-up programs. So we really work on that. And we're also doing some really top-notch studies on how traumatic brain injury can affect mental illness things. And so that's something that they never really crossed over, mental illness, as it could be related to a traumatic brain injury. And so I'm really fascinated with that subject. I know my dad had another hard crash where he hit his head on the wall and had a brain injury. So I'm really fascinated with that subject. So I'm really blessed to be working in the community, helping people who have been through their own traumas, helping them work through those things, and just trying to be an encourager, just not that you have to be this, that, or the other thing. Just come as you are and just show up. If you just, this whole suit up and show up thing really gets you a lot of places. They say that you do your best and God will do the rest. I've really found that to be true, that if you get out there and do things, then the next step will be shown to you. Sometimes you don't know where you're going. Just get up and go. And, the Holy Spirit will guide you to the right places.
I think a lot of us would consider themselves lost when they don't know where that get up and show up statement comes into place. And then when you're like, just go, and you're like, go where, do what? We're always questioning ourselves. We're overthinking things, right?
Oh man, we overthink everything. And that can really lead to analysis paralysis, where you just think something's over so much, you kill it, or you take, that can really kill the creative flow and things too. When your head gets over involved. I know I have a tendency to live through my heart. That's just who I am. And like Ted, he's the brain. See, in the business, he's the brain, I'm the heart, and it just works out. I'm trying to find more balance, but I do definitely believe that the words will get in the way, and we can definitely think things to death. And they're gone before we even get them going, because we've let our fears and our expectations and all these things ruin the creative flow.
We do.
So you got to put a lot of things on faith. And like I said, you don't always know where you're going, but you got to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And remember that we only have grace for today. So just one day at a time, just do what makes you feel good on the inside. Don't hide. We all want to hide. I would stay in my beddy with my kitty cats, and my blankies for the rest of my life, but I really think that now's the time we need to encourage one another. It's really a strange time, a very exciting time to be alive too. We see a lot of things happening in our society, a lot of prophecies coming true. And I believe it's time for us to stand up tall in our faith and encourage everyone around us to do the same thing, because there's a lot of evil in the world that we need to be fighting.
We've kind of, and this isn't going to go into like the political part, that everybody had that reset button put on them globally, not just here in the States, but globally. It's one of those, we need the unity where we don't have the unity. And you have the smaller people, or I wouldn't say smaller people, you have smaller groups, I've noticed, that want that unity, but then there's not enough people, and I may be speaking out of term, who take that voice that they have, that forget that they can use to a positive, to say, stand up, show up, stand up, and let's be a unity of a country, or even the world. I'm sure that the world is probably a lot bigger picture than we can do, but here in the communities like you're doing. Yes, exactly. Like I said, you start your community, my community, or even just the communities of our family and our friends, and just kind of goes from there. And the one thing that we're missing is more love, more respect for one another, and definitely the unity.
Remember when we didn't talk about politics or religion and people got along a little bit better? Well, what happened to that? You know what? That was just like, that was the given in the equation. That was just like, oh, we just already know not to do that. It's like the social media, the powers that be are really trying to disconnect the people, and it's working. And we need to wake up and see that happening and go, wait, whoa, wait a minute. I don't have to live in fear. I don't have to stay inside. I can hug somebody, and I'm not going to die if I hug somebody. You know, we have to fight these powers that are filling us with all these fears.
Well, and you know, the other thing too, we'll go back on both of us sharing the same thing as far as loss goes. There's a division there too. Is there not? Where people, and you said early on, no one knows what to say. No one knows how to act around you. They don't know what to do. And it's like, you don't really have to. You know, you don't have to leave and you don't have to treat us differently just because something different happened to us. And then I've had people, and I don't know if this has happened to you, where someone has lost a loved one, all of a sudden they come back around into your life and they go, oh, I get it. And that's okay. You don't have to have it happen to you to get it, but at least be there and acknowledge that we all have something that's in our lives that has been changed.
Something.
Yeah.
And it is relative, you know, we're only we're only the things that have happened to us. That's what builds our character. But that way, we're all the same. We're all exactly the same. And we are really all these beautiful hearts that God just adores, you know, and we've really fallen into all this comparison. And especially women, you know, we're expected to be so perfect and this and that, and you know, we create humans in our body, but then we still have to be this big after that. You know, none of it works. We need to respect the sacred feminine again. We've really lost that. Somehow in the last 50 years, the idea of beauty is anorexia, bolt-ons, and duck lips. And I'm just not going to fall for that. I'm not going to fall for that. You know, and I think as women, we need to be nicer to each other too. Agreed. We can be a little catty, but that's only from our own insecurities because we've probably been hurt by women in the past. You know, I think we just have to all just try harder to be a little bit nicer, you know.
So before I ask my final question, I did forget to ask, you have the book. What was it? The name of the book again?
Savage Angel.
So it's not available yet, but it is going to be in the near future.
Yes, it's in production now, and I think we're going to be launching at the first annual IndyCar race in Nashville, Tennessee later this year.
And that is when again? So that if anyone's interested in like following it.
I don't know the exact date, but I think it's the third weekend in August. And that's the first year they're going to do a road course IndyCar race through the streets of Nashville.
Oh, wow.
Over a bridge and then back over a bridge. And I am so excited to see how they're going to put this event together. And Miles Ahead also works with this company called Vintage Indy, and we go around with the IndyCar races and have a vintage Indy paddock with all the old cars and stuff. Nice. And then Miles Ahead provides the pace car for the vintage IndyCar races. So we're already going to be there, and we thought, what a great opportunity to launch our book.
Oh, that would be great. So you've given us a whole schedule of racing. I'm going to have to put that on my calendar because like I said, I love racing, but the one that's going to be in Nashville will be quite interesting, especially when you talk about bridges. I mean, doing these on streets that we take for granted, we're just going to use to go to work or whatever, to events downtown. These people who are creative in their minds saying, this is going to be the perfect racetrack. You're like, what? What do you come up with that? So that's going to be kind of cool.
Well, it's a really, really huge, big deal to get an event like that to go. Of course, you have to get all the, you know, businesses involved and shut down the streets. And, you know, considering what we all went through last year with events kind of just being totally knocked out, it's a real blessing that this is approved and going through. So I can't wait to get there and see the very first annual.
I'm glad that we're starting to get our lives back. No pun intended, on track.
So I came to the point where I have to get myself back to some sort of normal or, you know, I started getting so depressed 5 or 6 months ago, just being locked in. And, you know, I'm used to living in the sun. There's not a lot of sun this time in Indiana. So the blues were getting me. I was putting on weight, you know, just everything. So I figured, you know, I'm either gonna, and I started drinking again too when I moved to Indiana. Well, I quit that now, but it was just last year, you know, I was like, okay, 2020, either I'm going to work really hard and come out better than ever from this, or this thing's gonna just knock me out. So I quit drinking again, and I've been working out, and I'm ready now. I'm ready to not only have the new normal, but bring back the new normal. We're bringing it back. I'm not going to sit around anymore and wait for people to say, oh, I want to live again. You know, I can't wait. I want to do it now. And I want to, you know, always inspire my kids to be living their fullest too. So let's bring back the better normal, and get this party started again.
You betcha. So with my final question, and that being said, you may have already answered it, but don't even know. So I love asking this question. I say this in every one of my interviews because it really is true. And you had mentioned you're, you know, big-hearted, and I am too. And so I take to heart what the answer is to this question that I ask everybody. And that question is, what message would you like to leave everyone based on your journey of your life with all of the different things that you went through?
You know, I would say that my message would be, whatever it is that scares you the most, those are the things you need to run after, not away from. And if you do that, I think that's how you break chains and negative strongholds and curses that hold you back. So whatever it is that you're afraid of, run towards that. And I believe that there will be existential answers for you on the other side of that fire.
I love that. That was pretty powerful, because I'm going to tell you right now, I woke up this morning with some things on my mind after a long hike yesterday with my niece in Sedona.
Oh, and that, I haven't been to Sedona. Is that where you live?
Beautiful. Huh?
Oh, I can't wait to come. I know there's a lot of spirit that lives in the area too, and I need to come check it out for myself.
There's a lot of beauty in the desert. People don't realize that Arizona is not just about cactus and dirt. There's a lot of beauty in it too. It's a good place to get your zen if you want to have your zen. But the message you just gave as far as the fear, it's like chasing after it. And I'll say it real quickly. My niece and I, she's 30 and she loves to hike. So we're the only ones in the family that like to be adventurous. Well, our adventures have turned really into adventures because we don't seem to plan it right. We have this, we're going to go here, focus, but then somehow something like gets us in different directions. So where we were going yesterday, we didn't quite make it because we kept getting detoured by these different paths based on someone else's description and direction. And that never got us to our point. So a 2-hour hike turned into 6.
It's like the Israelites wandering in the desert for 40
years. We were so determined to find this place and gave up on all the directions that people had put on the Pinterest or wherever the site was. We're like, no, we're going to find it. At this point, it was now we've run out of energy, and it's like the steamboat running out of steam, right? Yeah. Right. And we drank all our water. We're like, we don't want to get stupid and get stuck in the desert and not have any water. And so we're like, you know what? We're going to have to save this bit of time. But like I said, 2 hours turned into 6 because we were so determined to keep on that focus and keep going towards that one thing we wanted to do, even though we didn't even know what the place looked like. We just knew it was a great place to go to based on the reviews. So thanks for the message.
Wonderful. Oh, it sounds really great. I love hiking and just being out in nature, off the grid, so to speak, if that's even possible anymore.
It is. We were in areas. I'm like, I don't think this is a path because I'm slipping off the cliff. With that being said, and I just want to again say thank you so much for giving me your time and sharing your journey and the legendary Swede Savage, your dad.
Thank you so much, Christine. This has been really lovely. I hope we get to meet again.
Oh, we will.
In person. And anytime you want me to come on your show, just give me a holla.
I love it. To my listeners, to my viewers, wherever you are hearing or seeing this, thank you for paying attention and listening and watching to another amazing individual in her community, talking about the real life situations that happen, that you don't have to always be okay. That things aren't always okay, but you will be okay. That's what I meant to say. Until next time, everyone, if you have a story you want to share, know someone who has a story or an organization in your community that you want to be heard and feel needs to be heard, please email me to the address of stories@ChristineHotchkiss.com. Until next time, everyone, I wish you well and you take care.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.